I will show you how to create the ultimate AI agent in WhatsApp, and this agent can automatically reply to questions, book appointments, and pull real-time data from tools like your e-commerce store. And it understands text, images, and voice memos even when someone sends multiple messages in a row and then replies like a real human. And we will create this in 2 simple steps. First, I will show you how this agent works and what tools you need, and then we will build it step by step. And you will get my templates for free so that you can copy and paste it. But before we do any of this, let me first show you how this agent works in WhatsApp. So here I'm in WhatsApp, and then I can type in, "Hey there, I have a quick question about this part of your return policy." And then I send an image of that part of the return policy. And then I say, "If I want to order a bike with you, how can I return it safely?" And then it says, "Great question. Yes, you can return a bike. You've got 14 days to start. You can register your return here." So now it basically automatically replies based on the knowledge base that I trained it on. So it gives all of the answers in multiple messages, like how a normal human would do this. So then if I say something like, "Okay, that's great. Can I book an in-store appointment with you? My name is Joran and my email is this." And it says, "Absolutely, Joran, I can book an in-store appointment for you. Here are 3 available options. Which one works best for you?" So then if I say Monday works best for me, and it's about looking for a new bike. It says, "All set, Joran, I've booked your in-store bike consultation." Then it gives me the date, the time, the location, and the confirmation that will be sent to my email. And then if there's a specific type of model you're interested in, let me know so I can note it for the visit. And then lastly, we can also automatically ask about the status of orders. So then I say, "I actually have another question." And then we can do that with a voice memo. So here we can say, "I ordered a bike with you before, and I just want to know the status of that order." And then I say, "The order info is info@chatamize.com, and the order number is 3881. And then you will actually see that this AI agent can also understand the voice memo and that it can automatically look up the status of this order. And then it says, "Thanks, Joran, I found your order. The order is 3881, this is the email, and the status is completed. So your order has been shipped from our warehouse and should arrive in a few days. Want me to check for a tracking link or an estimated delivery date?" So as you can see, this agent can understand text, images, and voice memos and automatically answers questions, book appointments, and track real-time data from an e-commerce store. So this is exactly what we will build out in the rest of this video. Before we're going to build this, I want to point something out because I have seen dozens of videos on creating WhatsApp AI agents, and most of them are doing it wrong. They all assume that people on WhatsApp are sending one message at a time, but that's not how people message on WhatsApp. They send multiple messages in a row. So for example, they say, "Hey there, I have a quick question. Do you also ship internationally?" And most AI agents will reply to each one of these messages instantly, which makes it feel super robotic. Our AI agent will not do that. Our AI agent will wait on the messages, will group them together, and then will reply in one go instead of replying to each of these messages instantly. So let me show you how this agent works on WhatsApp. So it starts with the first step here, where we are receiving the messages on WhatsApp. And then the next step is that we collect all of these messages in ManyChat, which is the tool that we will use to send and receive messages on WhatsApp. Then once we have collected all of the messages in ManyChat, what we will do is we will send those messages to Make. And Make is the integration platform that we will be using. So what we will do then is that we will check on the type of message. So if the message contains an image, what we will do is we will describe the image using ChatGPT. ChatGPT. And if the message contains a voice memo, it will transcribe that voice memo into text. And if it's just text, then we will just use that text. And then finally, we create the final message. So for example, if someone sends multiple messages and one message is a text, one message is an image, and one message is a voice memo, then what we will do is we will describe the image, transcribe the voice memo, and use the text, combine all of that into one message, and that's what we will use here. And then what we will do as our next step is that we will send that final message to Relevance AI. So Relevance AI is the tool that we will use to create our AI agent. So we send it to our AI agent, and then we get an answer, and then we break down that answer into messages with ChatGPT. So instead of getting one super huge message, what we will do is we will break down these messages into multiple messages, and then we will send those messages with ManyChat eventually to WhatsApp. So that's basically how our entire system will work. And in order to create this, we will use these 4 tools. So we will use ManyChat, we will use OpenAI, Relevance AI, and Make.com. So before we're going to build this, I first want to quickly talk about why I chose these tools. So first of all, we have ManyChat. So we will use ManyChat to send and receive messages on WhatsApp. And the reason why we use ManyChat is that I have used them for the last 6 years to create chatbots and AI agents on WhatsApp. And they are super easy to use, they're 100% Meta approved, and they're pretty cheap. So that's why we go with ManyChat. Then we will use OpenAI to basically describe images and to transcribe voice memos. It's basically the best tool to do that. Then we use Relevance AI to create our AI agent. So Relevance AI is a great tool to create AI agents and then train them on your own data, such as a website or documents, but also give it access to tools like a Google Calendar or your e-commerce store. And I think the beauty of Relevance AI is that you can build any of this without using any code or without any technical setup. So that's why I choose Relevance AI to create our AI agents. And then lastly, we have Make. So Make is our integration platform that we will use to connect everything together. And there are basically 2 alternatives to Make. You have Zapier and N8N. Zapier is too expensive for most businesses, and N8N is too technical for most businesses. And Make.com is precisely in the middle. It's easy to use and it's pretty affordable, so that's why I went with Make. So in the rest of this video, we will create an AI agent for a bike shop called Bikey, and it has one physical location where you can go to and have an in-store appointment, but it also has an e-commerce store where you can buy bikes online. And what we will do is we will create an AI agent that automatically answers questions, books those in-store appointments, and can track the orders of the e-commerce store. And in order to do that, we first need to start with setting up our accounts. So the first account that we will set up is ManyChat. And for each one of these tools, I've added the links in the description that you can find the links and can also find some discount codes that will help you get started. And full disclaimer, these are all affiliate links, but it helps me to create free videos like these, and it doesn't have any influence on the price you pay. So what you can do is you can just go to chatomize.com/MC, and that will bring you directly to the ManyChat website. And in the description, there's also a ManyChat discount code that will give you 30 days of the Pro plan for free. So once you're here, you can just click on Get Started and then click on WhatsApp, and then you should click on Continue with Facebook. And I actually have a separate video on my YouTube channel that explains how you can connect a WhatsApp number to ManyChat. So after you have watched this video, I highly recommend going to that video as well. I already have a ManyChat account, so I will just click here on Sign In and then click on Sign In with Facebook. So that is our first account. The next account that we should create is the OpenAI account. So you can just go to platform.openai.com, and then you will come here. You can just click here on sign up if you don't have an account, or I will just click on log in because I already have an account. And I will log in with my Google account here. And then that's working. And then what's important with your OpenAI account is that you go here to settings, and then go here to billing, and then here you add your credit card, and you also add some credit balance. So what I usually add is at least $5, and I also recommend that if you're going to use this for your business, you set up auto recharging. So that means that each time you don't have enough balance, what OpenAI will do is it will automatically recharge your credit card, so you always have enough balance to basically run this. And in this case, if you just want to try this out, I recommend adding at least $5 as your credit balance. So that's OpenAI. Then the next tool that we should set up is Relevance AI. So you can just go to Chatamize.com/relevance, and that will bring you directly to the Relevance AI website. And then here you can just click on sign up, and then you can sign up with your account. I already have an account, so I will just click here on continue with Google, and then click on info at Chatamize. And then here I am logged in. And once you're logged in, what's very important that you go here to integrations and API keys. And then you search here for OpenAI. So here we choose for OpenAI API key. And here we can add our OpenAI API key. And the reason we do this is then we use less credits on our Relevance AI account. And then Relevance AI basically becomes cheaper. So what you can do is you can go back to OpenAI. Then here you need to go to API keys and then click on create a new secret key. Go with service account. And then in my case, I would just call this Relevance AI. And I will select the default project and then click on create secret key. And then you need to copy the secret key and you can paste it somewhere because we also need it later on. So I can just paste it over here and then click on save. So that's basically the first thing that we have added is our OpenAI API key. And then lastly, we need to create our Make accounts because Make is the integration platform that we use to connect everything together. So in order to do that, you can just go to Chatamize.com/make. If you use my link, you get 30 days of the Pro plan for free. So you can see that here, get your 1 month of the Pro plan for free. I already have an account, so I would just log in with my own account, but I highly recommend doing that. Then you can basically test out Make for free as well. So those are basically all the accounts that we need to set up. So the next step is to getting started with actually creating this. And we will first create it in ManyChat. So ManyChat again is the tool that we use to send and receive messages. And we first start by setting up the fields that we will need in order to create our AI agent. So you can basically go to settings here, and then you can go to fields, and then we can just create a new folder. So I would just call this the WhatsApp AI agent. Click on create. So here you can find that. And then we need to create a couple of fields. So the first field that we will create is AI user messages. And we will use this field to basically collect all of the messages that are sent by the user. So that's AI user messages. And then we will use 6 separate fields to store the answer of the AI agent. So this will be called AI answer 1. And then we will basically do that up until 6. So AI answer 2, AI answer 3, up until 6. And we will use these fields so we can split all of these messages and you don't get like a huge response, but you get it in like normal messages in WhatsApp. So those are basically the fields that we need to set up. And then if we go to automation, then we can create again a new folder so we keep everything structured. So this will be called WhatsApp AI agent. So we can find that here. And then we need to create 3 automations. So we basically have one automation that collects all of the messages. Then we have one automation that triggers our AI agent. And then we have one automation that basically displays the answer of the AI agent on WhatsApp. So we will just create these new automations step by step. So this first one will be called AI collect messages. So what we will do here is that basically each time someone sends us a message on WhatsApp, we want to trigger this automation and we want to collect all of these messages. And in order to do that, we need to use the WhatsApp default reply. So if you go to settings, you go to WhatsApp, and then you have the default reply. And the default reply is the automation that triggers each time someone sends you a message. So here you can basically click on select existing, then go with WhatsApp AI agent. And then you want to go with this one, but you cannot select this one because it doesn't have anything in there yet. So we first need to create that automation and then we can connect it to our default reply. So we will start by doing this. So basically know that each time someone sends us a message in WhatsApp, this automation will start. And then what we will do here as a first step is that we will add a condition. So what we will do is we will check if the AI user messages is unknown, right? If it is unknown, we want to set this. So what we will do here is we'll add an action. And then here we use contact data and then you set a user field. So we set the AI user messages AI user. And for some reason, it doesn't find that field. And sometimes I have this with ManyChat that it doesn't find the field. So in that case, what you can do is you can just refresh the page. And then here you can find it again. So we have AI user messages. Now it does find it. And then we have AI user messages. And what we want to do is we want to set it to the last text input, right? So each time someone sends us a message, ManyChat stores this in the last text input. So then we just want to set the AI user messages to the last text input. That's basically what we want to do, right? Then this basically happens the first time anyone sends you a message. But the next time someone sends you a message, what you actually want to do is you want to add that message to this custom field. So for example, if someone says, hey, I have a question about your return policy as 2 separate messages, what we will do is we will store it as, hey, dot, I have a question about your return policy. That's how we will store that in this field, right? That's how we will do it. And in order to do that, we will copy this. We will connect it to this. And then we will say, we will set the AI user messages to AI user messages dot less text input. That's basically what we will do, right? So again, how this will work is the first time someone sends us a message, then we'll just save that message in the user messages. And then the next time they send us a message, we store what we already have plus what they added as a new messages in that field user messages, right? So finally, if someone sends us 5 messages, we will store all of these messages in this field AI user messages, right? So that's what we basically do here. We can set this live, and then because now we have set it live, we can add the trigger. So here, if we go here, we go to the default reply, click on select existing, go with WhatsApp AI agent, and then here with AI collect messages, right? So what this will do is it will only collect the messages. It will not do anything else. It will just collect the messages. It will not send anything yet, right? So that's what this will do. Then we will create another automation, and we will call this automation AI send to agent. And we will trigger this automation after someone has sent us multiple messages and basically stopped with typing. So what we'll do is we will click on new trigger, go with contact event, and then we go with the daytime occurred, and we set this to 1 minute after the last interaction in WhatsApp. So if someone didn't type for 1 minute in WhatsApp, then this will trigger, and it will only trigger if the AI user messages has any value. So we can add a condition here, and we can say AI user messages has any value. So if the AI user messages has any value and someone didn't type for 1 minute, then this will trigger, right? So we can click here on save. And then what we will do first is that we will add an action. And what we will do is we will basically clear all of the fields, right? So here we can add an action, click on clear user fields, and we will clear all of the answer fields, right? Because the first time we get a response from the AI agent, it will fill all of these answer fields with the answers, right? And then the next time we send something and we get an answer back, before we send something to the AI agent, we actually want to clear all of these fields so that the answers of the AI agent are not combined in any way. So that's why we clear all of those fields. So we created 6 answer fields, so we will clear all of them. So AI answer 2. So you basically have all of these AI answers are all be cleared, basically means that they will all be emptied. Then the next step is that we want to send our messages to Make, because Make is the platform that we will use to connect everything together, right? So as a next step here, what you can do, add an action, and then here you want to trigger Make. In my case, this already shows up. If you did not connect to Make before, it will not show up, right? So I will show you how you can make this show up if you never have used ManyChat and Make before. So what we're going to do in Make, you can just go to scenarios, and we can create a new scenario, and this will be called WhatsApp AI agent. And then here what you can do, you can add a trigger, go with ManyChat, so you can basically search for ManyChat, click on it, and then go with watch incoming data. And then we need to add a webhook, right? So in order to add a webhook, you first need to add a ManyChat connection. So you can click here on add. And then here I already have a ManyChat connection. But let's say you don't, then we can just add a new one. So I'll just call this Chatomize. So I recommend setting this to the name of your ManyChat account. So I just set it to Chatomize. And then here we need the access token. So the access token is the API token that you have in ManyChat. So if you go back to settings here, you can go to API that you have over here. And then here you have the API key. I'll just zoom in a bit. You have the API key. Oh. And then you can paste it over here. Save it. And then that works. And then you set the webhook name to something that you can remember. And then if you see it, you basically understand what it means. So here I can say send to Relevance AI agent. That's basically what we want to do. Click on save. And then click on save. Right? So once you've done this, you can basically refresh ManyChat here. And then here you can click on the action. And then here the make will appear. Then you can click on trigger make. And then type in send to Relevance AI agent. That's basically what you want to do. And then after we have triggered that integration, what you can do is you can just go to contact data and then clear the user messages, because we basically want to delete all of these user messages, because otherwise we're going to combine all of the user messages in one thing. That's not what you want. So here we're going to clear that field as well. So once you have done this, you can basically click on set live. And then that is working as well. So this is the thing that we basically use to send the data to make and eventually to Relevance AI. And then the last automation that we need to set up is basically to send the response of the agent to the user in WhatsApp. So we'll call this AI and then send answer from agent. And then what you want to do here is you want to add a condition. So you basically want to check if any of those fields, so AI answer 1, AI answer 2, AI answer 3, whether they have any value. Because it could be that you have a very quick answer, then we only use one custom field. But it could also be that we have like 4 custom fields that are filled in, and then we have like 4 answers. So that's what we basically need to check on. So in order to do that, we can use a condition, and we can say, if AI answer 1 has any value, then we basically want to send them a WhatsApp message. And that WhatsApp message just contains AI answer 1. So in order to do that, you can either type in a bracket, or you can click on this bracket here. They have AI answer 1. That's what you have, right? So that's AI answer 1, but it could also be that we have that AI answer 2 is also filled, right? So that's what we do over here. So we connect that, and then you have AI answer 2. If that also has any value, then we want to send that as well. Right, so we can just copy this message. And then what we can do here is we can add a 3-second delay. And then we can send AI answer 2. And you basically want to do this for all of these messages. So AI answer 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's basically what I will do right now. So now I've created them all. So we basically check, okay, does it have any value? Then we send it. Does it have any value? Then we send it. And then we do that for basically all the answers. So 3, 4, 5, 6. So we basically do it for everything. And once you have set it up, then we set it live. So those are basically the 3 automations that we have in ManyChat. So this is the start, but the next step is to actually connect this to an OpenAI and Make, and to basically build this out. Right? So we basically are just here. We collected all of the messages in ManyChat and we send them to Make. Then in Make, what we will do is we need to check if those messages have an image or a voice memo. And if they do, then we need to describe the image or to transcribe the voice memo and create that final message, and then send that final message to our AI agent, and then break down the answer into messages and then send it back to ManyChat. That's basically what we will create, right? So that's basically our next step. Here we are inside Make. So before we're going to build something out, it's very important that Make knows what data we are working with. And by default, Make doesn't know all the data that we have in ManyChat. So what we can do is we can just go here, open a new tab, and we will just go here. Yeah, and then we create one other automation, but this is just for testing purposes. So we just call this test. And what we will do here is we will set an action, and we will set the action to contact data. And here we set AI user messages we set it to hey, doesn't really matter to what you set it to. And then the action will be trigger make. So, and then we send to relevant AI agent. And then here we add a WhatsApp message with done. We will basically use this to trigger make once. So make knows what data we are working with, right? So I will just add here a trigger, go with WhatsApp, go with user sends a message, and it is test make. So I'll just copy this. This is enabled, this is all working. And then what we can do here is we can just click here on run once, right? We go to WhatsApp, we basically say test make, then it says done, so you know that's working. Then if we go to make, you can see all of the data, and then make knows all of the data that we are working with and all of the custom fields that I have inside my ManyChat account, but also which ones are filled and which ones are not. So I think this is great because now make knows what data we are working with. So the next step is to basically build the rest of this automation out. So before we're going to build this out, I quickly want to show you the ultimate integration that we are creating. So this is basically integration that we ultimately create. It's pretty large. So first I will just explain it step by step. So what we do is we get the data from ManyChat. Then what we do is we set a variable called user messages that we will use throughout this integration. And then we basically need to check whether the messages that we get from ManyChat contain an image or a voice memo. So if we get an image in WhatsApp, what ManyChat actually sends is the image URL. And if we get a voice memo in WhatsApp, what we actually get from ManyChat is the voice memo URL. So that's what we can use in this integration. So what we basically do is that we first check if the message contains any images. So if someone sends us a message with an image in it, we will look for that image, we will describe it using OpenAI, and then we will replace the image URL with the description. And we will basically do the same thing for voice memos. So if someone sends us a voice memo, we get the voice memo URL, we look up that voice memo URL, we download the file, and then we transcribe that file using OpenAI. And then we replace the URL in the user messages, we replace that with the actual transcription of the voice memo. And then the last thing that we do is, regardless of whether we have images or voice memos, we basically send everything to Relevance AI. Then we split the answer of Relevance AI in these individual messages. Then we update those fields in ManyChat, so we get all of these individual messages. And then finally, we send the ManyChat flow. So that's basically how this all works together inside Make. So now let's build this out. So here we are. And the first thing that we will do is we will set a variable. The reason why we use a variable inside Make is because we want to use a variable user messages. We basically want to use that in this route. We want to use that in this route. And we want to use that in this route. And we want to update it several times. And the only way of doing that inside Make, like using one text in multiple routes, is by using a variable. So that's basically why we use a variable. So what we will do here is we go to tools. Here it shows already, but you can also just search for tools, right? Go with tools here and then click on set a variable. And we will set it, the variable name, to user messages. And we set the variable value to what we get from ManyChat. So here you can basically search for items. So I search for user messages. And then you can see the AI user messages, which in this time contains hey. So that's what we basically do. This contains all of the messages that we get from the user, right? Then the first thing that we do is add a router. So by adding a router, we can basically do multiple things in a row, right? So the first thing that we want to do is we want to check if the message contains any images. So if messages contains images, right? So then the condition is that the user messages variable, this one, and then goes matches pattern case insensitive, matches with a certain pattern. And then the pattern, I will copy this from my second screen, is this. What this basically does is it checks whether it contains something with a PNG, a GIF, a JPEG, or a WebP, right? So that's basically what it checks on. So it basically checks, okay, does anyone has sent us an image, right? So that's what we do over here. If someone has sent us an image, what we need to do is we need to find the image in the user messages. In order to do that, we will use a text parser. And then we find match pattern. And then you can basically paste the same pattern. that we had before. Then you need to go with global match, right? So we set the global match to yes. What this basically means that if someone sends multiple messages, it will do this for any message that it can find or for any image that it can find. It will be case insensitive, and the text that we will use is user messages, right? So that's what we will do. Then the next step is to get the variable again. So here we click on tools, go with get variable, and it's very important that you type in here user messages. Don't select this one, type in user messages, right? So that's what we do over here. And then the next step is to basically describe the image using OpenAI. So the next step here, add another module, go with OpenAI, and then go with image. And then here you can click on Analyze Images Vision. And then here I already have a connection, but if you don't have a connection, you can just click here on Add. And then you can add a connection name. So again, I recommend setting this to the name of your OpenAI account. So I would just type in Chatamize. I can type in the API key. So that's the API key that we had before. And then lastly, we have the organization ID. So if we go back here, I would just open another tab because I'm not really sure if we need the API key again. So I'll just open that up. And here you can just go to general. And then here you have the organization ID, right? So we can just copy that. And then we can paste that over here. And then click on save. And then we basically have a connection with our OpenAI account. The prompt for this will be very simple. So the prompt is generate description of the image. Then we can add an image. So the image is the image URL. And the image URL is the fallback match. So basically, anytime the text parser finds an image, it will be stored in the fallback match. So that's why we store that over here. The model that we use is basically GPT-5. But if there's a better model in the future, basically use the best model that's currently out there. And this is a description. Yeah, generate a description of the image. And this is basically it, right? So then we hit save. So what this basically will do is it will describe the image. It will give a description of the image, right? So once we have got that, what we basically need to do is we need to replace the image URL in the user messages variable with the actual description of the image, right? So in order to do that, we again need to use a text parser. So we can go here, text parser, and then use the replace. And then the pattern that we are looking for is the fallback match. So this is basically the image URL. And we store the new value with the result that we get from OpenAI. And then before the result, you actually want to add image and then double points and then the result. So basically, then our agent knows that we are actually working with an image. The global match is no. The case insensitive is also no. And then the text that we are using is the user messages. So what we're basically doing here is we are getting the variable user messages. We already did that over here. And then we replace the image URL with the actual description of the image, right? So that's what we do over here. And then the last thing that we need to do is we need to update this user messages variable, right? So in order to do that, you can go here, search again for tools, and then go with set variable. And we set the variable user messages. Again, you need to type that in. And we're going to set it to the text that we get from the replace. So basically from this thing, we get a text back. That's what we'll use over here, right? So this is basically how that works. So basically this will find any image URL. Then we get again the variable, right? Then we describe the image. We replace the image URL with the description of the image, and then we update the user messages variable, right? So that's basically how this works for images. And then we can basically do the same thing for voice memos. So this is basically our second route. So our second route is called if messages contain voice memos. And then the condition is user messages. And then we can search again for match pattern, case insensitive. And then we can add another pattern. And this pattern will basically look for MP3 files or MPEG files or OGG files or OGA files. These are basically files that can be of voice memos, right? So it basically checks, okay, if there is a URL that leads to a voice memo, that's basically what this will look for. So we hit save. And then again, we will use the text parser. So text parser. And then go with match pattern. We can basically put the same pattern over there. It will be a global match, so that means that if we find multiple voice memos, it will do this for every voice memo. It will be case insensitive, so the case sensitive is no. And the text is user messages, right? Then what we will do again is we will get the variable. So we go with tools, get variable, and again, it will be user messages, right? So that's what we do. So we get basically the latest version of the user messages. So for example, if someone sends n images and voice memos, this will make sure that we get the latest version of the user messages variable. And that is the version where the images are already replaced with the description of the images. So that's what we do. We get the variable. Then the next step is that we need to download the file. So we need to download the voice memo file. In order to do that, what you can do is you can add another module, and this will be called HTTP, this one, and then get a file. So it downloads a file from a given URL, and the URL that we basically have is the fallback match that we get, right? So what this will basically do is it will look for the voice memo URL, and it will store the voice memo URL in the fallback match. So that's what we do over here. Hit save. And then the next step is to basically transcribe the voice memo. And we will use, again, OpenAI for this. And then you can basically search for trans. And then you can find here for create a transcription. We can use that same OpenAI connection. The file that we will use is the getter file that we get over here. The model that we will use is Whisper 1. And the response format will be JSON. And then here, it's get a transcription of the file is the prompt. So that's, again, very simple. So then we hit save. And then again, we need to add it says here a problem. I'm not sure why. Save again, problem disappeared. Okay, so then the next step is to add again a text parser. So the text parser will replace the voice memo URL with the actual transcription of the voice memo. So here we will use again a text parser, go with replace. And then the pattern will be the fallback match. So the fallback match contains the voice memo URL. And then the new value is basically the text that we get from OpenAI. Then the global match will be no, it will be case insensitive, and the text will be user messages, right? So what this will do is it will basically replace any voice memo URL with the transcription of that voice memo. And the last step is to update the user messages variable, right? So we have here user messages or tools, set variable, user messages. So user messages. And then the variable value will be text, right? So those are basically the first two things. So basically, if it contains any images or any voice memos, what we will do is we would describe the image or we transcribe the voice memo, and then we update the variable user messages, which is the variable that we will use. Then the last thing that we should do is we should send this to Relevance AI. And before we can do that, we first need to set up our Relevance AI agent, right? So if we go to Relevance AI, what we can do is we can go to agents and then click on new agent. And I will just click here on build from scratch. And I will call this agent Bikey because it's for Bikey. And then the first thing that we can do is we can add a prompt, right? So I already created a prompt for this. So I stored this in the Google Doc. And if you download my template, you will get all of this stuff for free. You will get it in a good overview. Then you can just copy and paste it, right? But what this prompt basically says, okay, you're a professional AI assistant. There are basically three things that you can do. You can answer questions based on a knowledge base. You can book appointments, or you can get the order status, right? So that's basically what it will do. It will give some context, but that's basically the entire prompt, what the entire prompt is about. So you can basically copy this. And then if you go to Relevance, you can paste that over here. That is all working. And then you can basically click on Save Changes, right? So this is the prompt. Then the next step is to actually train Bikey on a knowledge-based document. So here you can go to Knowledge. And then here you can just drag and drop or choose files to upload, right? So I already created another knowledge-based document, and this document contains information about returns. It contains information about delivery, about appointments and in-store visit, about order status and changes, like all of that stuff that it basically needs. So what I can do here is I can just click on File, Download, go with a Word document or a PDF, doesn't really matter. Go to Relevance, and then we can upload this document to Relevance AI, and then we go with Allow Agent to Search, right? So we go with that. That basically means that it allows the relevance AI agent to search, and otherwise the knowledge base document would just be added to each and every prompt. But that doesn't make any sense because it could be that a lot of information in this knowledge base document is not related to a question that someone is asking. So in order to let it search basically efficiently, that's why we go let the agent search, right? So we basically now covered the prompt. Here you need to click on Save Changes. So now we covered the prompt, we covered the knowledge, but we also wanted to automatically book appointments and get the order status. And that's what you can do here with tools. So here you can just add tools. And in this case, I want to add 2 tools. I want to add the Google Calendar, which will check my availability, but it can also create events and cancel events. And I will connect it to WooCommerce, which I will use an example for an e-commerce store. But you can easily also connect it, for example, to Shopify or any other tool that you might be using. And I think this is the main benefit of Relevance AI. You can easily connect it to almost any tool you can think of, which is great and awesome. And I haven't seen that before with many other tools, right? So we can click here on Add Tool, and then you can just search here for Google Calendar. And then here you can click on Create Google Calendar Event. We can add 1 tool. And then here we will leave how the tool is described to an agent because that doesn't really matter. Then we need to select the Google account, right? So we don't have a Google account connected yet. So I can click on Add Account, sign in with Google, and then go with my Google account and click on Continue, click on Continue. And now that is connected, right? So we can call this an event title. So I would just call this Set Manually, and we will set this to In-Store Appointment. The description, I let the agent decide what the description is. The start date and time, I also let the agent decide. Also let this agent decide. And I think the rest is that, right? So it creates the Google Calendar event. Then the next step is that we also want the AI agent to cancel any events if that's needed, right? So we can add another tool, go with Google Calendar here, and then we want to cancel the event. So here we have cancel event Google Calendar, add 1 tool, and then we select our account, and that's working as well. So I think for the rest, that's fine. So now we have cancel event, we have create Google Calendar event. But then we also have a third thing, and the agent should check on our availability, right? So we can add another tool and then go with check Google Calendar availability. How it checks the availability in Google Calendar is pretty important. So I actually set up another thing here. So I give it a quick prompt, so we can copy that. And this prompt is check the availability in Google Calendar. Always give 3 separate date options. For example, Monday at 11, Tuesday at 3, or Wednesday at 4. Because if you don't set it, it will basically say, hey, you can come by today at 11, 12, or 1. And most often people cannot appear on a certain date. So if you give them multiple days, that's just a better user experience. So that's what we set over here. The Google account that we use is the same one. I let the agent decide what the start date and the end date is, but you can give it also a slot duration, right? So I can just set this manually, and we can say that every meeting or like in-store appointment is like 30 minutes, right? Then you can also set the start time and the end time. So Bikey is open every day from 9 to 5. So here I set 9 and here I set 5. And of course, we're also working in a certain time zone. So in this case, I would just go with my own time zone. Oh, we need to set this to set manually. And then this is like 5 o'clock. And this is like 9 o'clock. So it's always between 9 and 5. And then the time zone, I also set this manually because the time zone is Europe, Amsterdam, because that's where I'm based. I'm based in the Netherlands. So that's basically what this does. And then also you can determine which calendars it should query. I only have one calendar, so I don't worry about that. But just so you know, you can set all of these things up. And for some reason, the prompt is gone. So I just add the prompt back. And then we can click on Save Changes, right? So now we gave it 3 tools. So we gave it check the Google Calendar availability, canceling events, and creating events. Then there's just one other tool that I want to add, and that is getting the order status. And for an example, I will use WooCommerce. So here we can just click on Add Tool, go with WooCommerce, and then here you can click on Get Order. So we add one tool, and then we need to go with our WooCommerce account. So we need to add that. So I will add this account, click on Add Account, click on Continue, and then I need to fill in the key and the secret that I get from WooCommerce. right? So I'll just log into my own WooCommerce store that we will use as an example. And then here we can just go to settings. We go to integration. No, we go to advanced. Integration is not the right one. And then we go to REST API. And then we basically can create a new key, right? So I will add a new key. And this one will be called Relevance AI. And we give it read and write access. So it basically has all the access that it ever needs. And then we get a consumer key and a consumer secret, right? So I will get this key and I will paste that in Relevance AI. And we have a consumer secret and I will paste that also in Relevance AI. And then here we have the domain. So the domain in my case is learn.chathamize.com, right? So if you run a store, yeah, enter mystore.com, that's learn.chathamize. So I will click here on continue. We successfully connected your WooCommerce account, so that's working. And this will basically get order information from WooCommerce. And again, we will give it a more specific prompt. So the prompt here is this. So I'll just copy and paste it over here. And we basically says, okay, if someone asks for the status of their order, asks for their email address and order number, then get the order status, you should check whether the order number and the email address match. If they don't match, you should tell the user you couldn't find their info. If they do match, you give the order status. And we basically have 3 statuses. We have completed. So if it is completed, tell them that the order has been shipped from the warehouse and it should arrive in a few days. If the order is processing, then we are currently still packing the order and it will be shipped from the warehouse soon. And if the order is canceled, tell them then something went wrong with the payment, right? So that's basically how we give order information with our AI agent. So here we can click on save changes and then all of this is basically working. Then before we move on, I highly recommend going to advanced as well. Then go to language model and then always go with the best model. Here it chooses the performance optimized model. You don't want to do that. I basically have the experience that if you go with a performance optimized model, it doesn't give the best replies. So I always recommend going with the model that is the best in OpenAI. So with OpenAI currently GPT-5 is the best model. So just go with GPT-5, right? So here you can just choose the model. And here we have GPT-5, which is the latest. Go with that one, click on save changes, and then you always get the best responses, right? So that's basically all we should do. We added a prompt, we added knowledge, we added tools. So that's basically our entire AI agent. And if you want to test it out, you can basically click here on run and basically have a talk with it. So here we can, for example, say, hey there, can I book an appointment? And then it says, absolutely, I can help you book an appointment. Could you please share your full name, email address, in-store visit, any preferred daytime, right? So that's basically what we have over here. This works great, right? So the next step is to actually connect this agent to Make. So that's basically our last route. So here we add a route and we should always trigger this route, right? So if we have images or if we don't have images and don't have voice memos, then we immediately go to this route. If we have images and voice memos, then we basically should do this route, the last one. And that's basically what we do over here. So I will call this route always because this route will be triggered, right? Then what we do here is we get the variable. So we type in here, get variable, click on this, and then type in user messages. Then the next step is to send the user messages. So that's basically the entire collection of messages that we have where the image URL is replaced with the image description and where the voice memo URL is replaced with the voice memo transcription. All of that will be sent to Relevance AI. So here what you can do, add another module and go with Relevance AI. Relevance here, click on message and agent. And then here I already have a connection. I will just create a new connection to show you how this works. So you can click here on add. And then you can call this the name of your Relevance AI account. So I'll just call this Chathamize. And then if you go back to Relevance AI, you go back here. Then here you have integrations and API keys. Then we have Relevance API keys. And then here you can click on create a new secret key. So I will just call this make.com. Then we have generate the API key. We have the authorization token. So I can just copy that. Oh, we don't need that. So we don't need it. Then we have the API key. So that's this one. We have the project ID. So that's this one. And then we have the region. And the region is this one. So we add that over here. Click on save. And then it says the following permissions are not authorized. So I think something went wrong with the key. So we can just create a new key. So I'll call it make.com2. The permissions will be admin. I think that's the thing that we should do. And then we get all of the same stuff. So we have the API key over here. We have the project ID we have over here. And then we have the region. Yeah. And that is working, right? So then we can select the agent we want to send this to. So I already have multiple agents, but we could just go with Bikey. And then the user message will be the variable that we basically just got. So user messages. And here what we will do is we need to set a conversation ID. And the reason why we need to set a conversation ID is so that Relevance AI knows that this is the same conversation that's being talked about, and we can actually keep track of the conversation history. So in order to do that, you need to click here on map, and then you need to go with the subscriber ID that we get from ManyChat. So we basically use the subscriber ID to know, okay, this Relevance AI chat belongs to this subscriber in ManyChat. So that's what we do over here. So I save it now. Then the next step is now we basically get a response and answer from Relevance AI. And that answer can be pretty long, like could be 5 or 6 or maybe like 24 sentences. And we want to break down that answer into multiple messages. That's basically why we use the AI answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What you could do in Make, you have ManyChat, and then you have set custom field. Right? What you can do with set a custom field is you can set one custom field. But the problem is like it could be that you have a short answer and then we only have AI answer 1. But it could be that we have a longer answer, then we have AI answer 1, 2, and 3. And otherwise we have AI answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the main thing about this, it's dynamic. And that's why we cannot use this. What we actually should do is we need to split down the answer of Relevance AI into messages, and then we need to structure these messages into JSON so we can send an API call to ManyChat. So what ManyChat actually expects is something like this, where we say, okay, this is the subscriber ID, these are the fields, and this is AI answer. I'll just zoom in. This is AI answer 1, this is the first part of the answer, this is AI answer 2, this is the second part of the answer, and so on, and so on, and so on. And in order to split basically the answer that we get from Relevance AI into something like this, we will be using OpenAI again. So what we can do here is we can add an OpenAI, and then we can search for completion. So we want a completion. And then we need to have a prompt for this. So we go with the same connection, we go with the GPT-5 model, and then we go with add message. The role will be developer/system, and then we have the content of this thing. So I will just copy this from my second screen, and we copy that over here. I can just show you how this looks because, yeah, it's a pretty long thing. So we basically say you're a skilled content formatter with years of experience in organizing conversational text for Messaging Boss. Your task is to take a block of conversational text and split it into natural sounding messages with a maximum of 6. Then convert those messages into a JSON array where each message is formatted with this and this and this. This is the input and this is the output. So the output is basically the output that I just described over here, right? And then we say notes, break the input into this. Each message should feel like a standalone chat bubble. And the JSON output should be a plain array only. No wrapping inside another key like result or response. So that's basically what we have. The only thing that you need to replace is the input for the task. So the input for the task is basically the answer that we get from Relevance AI. So that is this one. So you can just click here and then it works. And then you hit save. So this will basically split the answer from Relevance AI into each of these individual things. Then the next step is to send all of that information to ManyChat. And in order to do that, we need to do an API call because, again, what I said, it needs to be dynamic. So in order to do that, you can just go here, search for HTTP, and then go with make a request, right? So then the question is, okay, how do we send this? And in order to do that, you can just go to Google and search for ManyChat API, right? So here we have the ManyChat API, and they have a API call that's called set custom fields, right? So we can use that in order to send the custom fields. So here we have api.manychat.com/fb, basically what we have over here, /subscriber, /set custom fields. That's basically the URL that we need to use. So we can copy this, then paste it over here. Then the method that we do is posting, because with an API call, when you send data to a tool, which we do right now, we post the data like a postman. So that's why the method is post. Then we need to add a header. So the header will be called authorization and then bearer. And then here we need to add the API token from ManyChat. So that's the one we copied before. So we can basically copy this and then paste it over here. And then the body type will be raw. The content type will be JSON. And then the request content, I have that also in the file. So this will be the request content. And what this has is basically the subscriber ID that we have from someone in ManyChat. So if you go to the bottom here, then we have the subscriber ID. And then the fields that we basically get from our OpenAI thing. So if you scroll up, then we basically have, here we have the result, right? So what this will do, it will send all of the answers like AI answer 1, AI answer 2, AI answer 3. It will send that to ManyChat. So we hit save. So this will actually save the custom fields in ManyChat, but it doesn't actually send a message. So in order to send the messages in WhatsApp, the last thing that we need to do is we need to send a flow. So here you can just click here on add another module, go with ManyChat, and then search for send a flow. And then we use the same connection. We again use the subscriber ID. And then here we have the flow ID. So in order to get the flow ID of the right automation, we go back to ManyChat. And then here we want to send the answer from the AI agent. We can click on edit automation. And then here in the URL bar, you have like content and then a lot of numbers, right? So you have basically this. You basically need to copy this part of the URL. And that is the flow ID, right? So we add it over here and then we save it. And that is it. That is the entire integration for our WhatsApp AI agent. So again, I would just basically explain how this works step by step again. So what we do is every time someone sends us a message in WhatsApp, we collect all of these messages in one field called user messages. Once we have done that, then we will wait for 1 minute. So if someone doesn't type for 1 minute, and it has asked us a question, then we send that to our AI agent in Make. Then what Make will do is it will check if it can find any images. If it has any images, it will describe those images with OpenAI. If it can find any voice memos, it will transcribe those voice memos using OpenAI. And then lastly, it will get all of that text and then send that to Relevance AI, where we have our AI agent. And then we will split the answer of Relevance AI into multiple messages, send those messages to ManyChat via the custom fields, and then we send the ManyChat flow. And then the ManyChat flow is this, where we basically check on each one of these answers and send those answers to WhatsApp. So that's basically how the entire thing works. And then in order to basically know that this is working, you need to check if this is enabled. Then if you go to the AI collect messages, you need to make sure that the default reply is set to every time. And then lastly, you want to check if this works as well. So here what we do is we enable this, right? So it says we already have unprocessed data. So we delete those old data. We don't want to have that anymore. So we delete it and we hit save. And now this is working. So now this is just working forever. Now let me show you how this works in WhatsApp. So now I'm in WhatsApp and then we can say, hey there, I have a quick question about your return policy. Then let's look what we said before. Then we send them the image. So here we can send them image about a part of the return policy. And then we can say, if I want to order a bike with you, how can I return it safely? And then what our AI agent here will do, what ManyChat first will do, if we go to context, you can see it right here. It will say, hey there, dot, I have a quick question about your return policy. And then it has the image URL. So that's what it displays basically next, what it gets. And then lastly, it says, if I want to order a bike with you, how can I order or return it safely? So that's basically what it will get. And now we will basically wait for 1 minute. And then also if you go to Make, then if you are basically here and then if you go back, then here you can see in history, but you can also see if it is currently running. So if an execution is currently running inside Make, you can actually see it over here. And I can also see what happens at what particular point in time. So now we basically need to wait for 1 minute. And then once we have done that, then you will see that this will be triggered. So now you can see that this is triggered, and you can see that it found an image and that it is now replacing that image with the image description that we get from OpenAI. So it's currently describing that image, and then we'll replace the image URL with the actual image description. It actually has done that, and then it can't find any voice memos, which is true. And then it will get the user messages, send basically all of the message text to Relevance AI, and then Relevance AI will come up with an answer. So now Relevance AI has generated that answer, and then OpenAI will split that answer into multiple messages, and then we'll send each one of these messages into a specific custom field in ManyChat, and then finally we send a ManyChat flow. So you can see that also happened, and then you can also hear the notification bell. So you can say that all of the messages are being sent. Yes, you can return a bike. You've got 14 days after delivery, step 1, step 2, and then it basically goes on into a maximum of 6 messages. And that's basically how that all works, and it works together. Now, I will also show you what it can do, for example, with a voice memo. So here I can say, hey there, thank you for sending me that information. I actually want to come by at your store and maybe have an appointment. Like, can we book an appointment together? So now it has that voice memo, and then we can also add text, just so you know that that also works if you like send multiple things. So here we can say, I would like to know that, right? And then if you again go to our ManyChat contact, then I will just refresh this page. And then here you can see that it basically contains like a URL going to the voice memo, which in this case an OGG file. And then you can see that it also has the image I would like to know that, or the message I would like to know that. And then again, you can just go back to Make, and then it will trigger again in about like, I would say 30 seconds. So now you can see that the Make again is triggered. And then in this case, it found a voice memo. It transcribes that voice memo. And then lastly, it will send all of that information basically to Relevance AI. Relevance AI is now currently coming up with the answer. Then Relevance AI now is given the answer, and now OpenAI is structuring that answer again into multiple messages. And then we send those messages to WhatsApp. And again, you already hear it. Absolutely quick heads up. You already have an in-store appointment booked for Monday, August 25. So that's basically what I already showed you here. Is like at the beginning of this video, I gave you a demo. So it's very good that this agent is really aware of an appointment slot that I already have. And then again, gives me 3 separate times on 3 separate days. So as you can see, it's also working with voice memos. And I think the beautiful thing of this is that it can basically reply to any type of messages that your customers are sending you. But also, if, for example, you're not using Google Calendar or you're not using WooCommerce and you basically want to connect other tools, the beauty of Relevance AI is that you can add it to so many tools as you would like. Like they have a lot of integrations already built in with calendars and data scrapers and basically anything you can think about. And also, if you want to, for example, train it on a website or a Google Drive or anything like that, that's also possible. And I think that's what makes Relevance AI so powerful. But that's basically it. That's how you can create the ultimate AI agent in WhatsApp. And if you want to get started with this today, you can download all of my templates for free with the link in the description. But this is just a start. If you want to know how I created a $4,000 WhatsApp chatbot that saved over 200 hours every month, please check out this video.